I thought I had seen everything. I thought the two previous experiences, the ROM I shouldn't have touched, the deleted level that screamed, were nightmares I'd survived. I was wrong. There's a saying among collectors, curiosity kills more than cats. It kills sanity. It started on a rainy evening. I was browsing through an obscure marketplace online, looking for old Genesis cartridges to rebuild my collection. A seller listed a Sonic beta compilation, claiming it contained unreleased levels, unused sprites, and test builds. I hesitated. This was exactly the kind of file I should have ignored, but there was something in the seller's description that drew me in. Not for the faint of heart, it read. Sonic isn't always alone. I clicked buy. The cartridge arrived days later, wrapped in brown paper and scotch tape, no box, no labeling besides a single number scrawled in red ink, 037X. I set it on my desk and stared at it. Something about it felt wrong. The plastic was warm like it had been sitting near a heater, except my apartment was cold. I picked it up and saw faint scratches on the bottom that weren't there before, forming a shape I couldn't identify. I inserted it into my Genesis console. The screen flickered violently, then went black. I waited. A distorted blue sprite appeared, more broken than anything I had seen before. Sonic's eyes were enormous, black voids surrounded by jagged white lines. He blinked slowly, then turned his head toward the screen. And that's when I heard it. The voice was soft at first, barely a whisper, like someone talking through a phone with bad reception. Finally! You're here, I froze. My hands hovered over the controls. It's the game, I told myself. It's not real, but deep down I knew better. The level began, or rather it appeared as though materializing from nothing. Green hill zone warped and decayed. The sky a sickly yellow, the grass jagged and blackened at the edges. Sonic ran on his own, moving faster than physics should allow, darting through platforms that didn't exist and looping around impossible angles. The usual cheerful music was gone. In its place, a low hum vibrated through the room, punctuated by faint screams I could almost but not quite distinguish. Then came the glitch. It started in the corners of my screen, pixels twitching, forming shapes that shouldn't be there. At first I thought it was a graphical error, but the shapes became humanoid, flickering in and out like shadows. They moved with purpose, crawling toward the edge of the screen, toward me. My pulse raced. I reached to unplug the console, but before I could, Sonic stopped mid-run and looked directly at me. And then he grinned. That impossible stretching grin that I'd seen before. Something cold brushed against my shoulder. I yelped and spun around. No one was there, but the sensation lingered like icy fingers tracing my spine. I told myself I was imagining it. I wasn't. Sonic's sprite blinked unnaturally, then began to move through the screen itself, leaving a trail of flickering pixels that hovered in the air above my desk. My vision blurred. The lights in my apartment flickered. The room seemed to expand, warp, stretch. I could hear static whispers everywhere echoing behind my eyes. Play. Stay. Join us. Panic overtook me. I grabbed the cartridge and tried to smash it. My hands passed through it as if it were made of smoke. I dropped it and it hit the desk with a solid clunk. Sonic's sprite emerged fully from the console now, crawling across the surface of my desk, moving impossibly fast. He stopped at the edge, looking directly at me, and the whispers became coherent. You can't leave. You can't hide. We're inside you now. I bolted from the room, but the sound followed me. Digital static, high-pitched laughter, low growls echoing in my ears. When I returned with a hammer, the cartridge was gone. I searched every corner, every drawer, every crevice of my apartment. Nothing. No sign it had ever existed. That night I couldn't sleep. Every reflection, windows, mirrors, even darkened screens showed him. Sonic grinning, blinking at me from impossible angles. And then the knocking started. At first soft, then louder, echoing in my walls, my floor, my ceiling. Not real knocking. Not wooden doors. It was digital, synthetic, like code tapping on reality itself. I stayed awake for 3 days, afraid to close my eyes. On the 4th day, I realized something horrifying. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside me. Every time I moved, my heartbeat echoed it. Every breath I took synced to the digital knocking. I could feel the sprite crawling through my nerves, leaching into my mind. I tried to document it, record the sounds, capture the glitches, but every device I used either malfunctioned or returned blank files. Screenshots appeared black. Audio files contained only static. Anything I tried to show someone else vanished when I tried to share it. And sometimes, when I glanced at a friend's phone or computer, I'd see faint flickers of blue pixelated movement in the corner of their screen, and I knew it wasn't just in my head anymore. A week in, I stopped sleeping entirely. My apartment was filled with flickering shadows, my own reflection twisting into that same jagged grin, eyes hollow. The knocking became tapping, typing, clicking, sounds of code being rewritten around me. Sonic wasn't just a game anymore. He was a presence, a parasite. I can't describe how long it's been. Days, weeks, months, time lost all meaning. I hear the faint strains of Green Hill Zone everywhere I go, distorted, slowed, echoing in the distance. Sometimes I can feel him behind me in the dark, hovering just out of sight. I've stopped turning on my consoles, stopped touching anything digital. My collection, my passion is gone. The ROMs, the cartridges, even my old computers, I've thrown them all away, smashed them, burned them. But it's no use, he follows me.
He always follows me.
Sonic, grinning, crawling, whispering from the static, from the shadows, from my own mind. Sometimes in the quiet, I can hear my own heartbeat synchronize with his. The knocking in my skull, the tapping in my veins, the laughter echoing behind my eyes. I've tried to leave my apartment, tried to escape the city, but the sounds, the presence, the sprite, he finds me. In elevators and reflections in every digital device, it's as though reality itself is coded with his existence now. And I know if I ever turn on a screen again, he will fully emerge and I will be consumed entirely. There's no help. No one believes me. There's no evidence, only memory and fear. And every night when I close my eyes, I see the same thing. A distorted blue blur, eyes hollow, grin impossibly wide, moving closer, whispering, "You're mine now." Some things shouldn't exist. Some things shouldn't be found. Some things like this, glitch, follow you home, and I'm living proof. I can feel him right now, watching me from the corner of my vision, waiting, and I don't know how much longer I'll last. I've always had a soft spot for abandoned game files. Old demos, deleted levels, beta builds, they're like digital fossils, remnants of worlds that almost existed. So when I stumbled upon a forum thread buried deep in some forgotten corner of the internet, I couldn't resist. The thread promised a Sonic ROM with a level that was never released, something that wasn't in any official game. It was just called Level X. The post warned against running it, but warnings have always done the opposite for me. I downloaded the file without hesitation. It was tiny, just a few megabytes, which felt wrong for a level supposedly this intricate. My computer screen flickered as I opened it, and I could have sworn I saw static figures flitting across the edges of my monitor. I shook my head. Paranoia, I told myself. I'd been staring at screens too long. The level loaded. Or at least something that resembled a level loaded. Instead of the bright, cheery landscapes I expected, it was a twisted gray wasteland. The usual loops and slopes were jagged and broken, like someone had smashed the digital terrain with a hammer. Sonic appeared at the start, his sprite slightly off, his eyes too large, pupils dark and unblinking. As I moved him forward, the music kicked in. It wasn't music. It was a garbled mess, half ambient noise, half scream, all distorted. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. At first, I tried to convince myself it was a glitch. The level was supposed to be experimental beta. What if it was corrupted? But then I noticed something impossible. The environment was reacting to me, not in the way a game responds to input, but almost like it knew me. Platforms would crumble under my cursor's shadow. Rings would vanish before Sonic could reach them. And the background, I can't describe it properly. Shadows shifted along the terrain, forming vague humanoid shapes, faces that looked almost alive, mouthing silent words I couldn't hear. I pressed escape. Nothing. I tried Alt plus F4. The program refused to close. My keyboard lit up with static electricity, a faint vibration thrumming through my fingers. Panic rose in my throat. I was about to unplug the computer when a voice echoed from my speakers. Not garbled this time, clear. "Why are you here?" I screamed and jumped back, knocking over my chair. Silence. I laughed nervously, telling myself it was my imagination. Maybe some weird sound overlay from the ROM. But deep down I knew it wasn't. Something in that level had reached out, and that's when the game started moving on its own. Sonic began walking without my input, gliding across broken platforms toward a dark, gaping void at the end of the level. I leaned closer, mesmerized and horrified. As he approached, the shadows grew more distinct. One of them stretched toward the screen as if trying to pull itself into my room. I slammed my hands down on the keyboard trying to stop it, but the cursor froze, and then the screaming started, not from the speakers. From inside my head, high-pitched, frantic, urgent. It was a chorus of voices, many voices, all shrieking at once, overlapping, each one saying something different. Get out. No, it's coming. My vision blurred. I could feel the static from the screen crawling over my skin, small sparks biting at my fingers and arms. I stumbled backward away from the desk, my mind teetering on the edge of panic. When I dared to look back, Sonic's sprite was gone. In its place, a figure. It was humanoid but twisted, elongated, eyes blank black voids. Its head turned slowly toward me, grinning in that impossibly wide, broken way. My room felt colder, the air thicker, like I was underwater. The computer screen flickered violently, and I could swear it breathed. In and out, the glow pulsing like a lung. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours. Time felt warped, stretched. Every time I blinked, the figure was closer. It whispered my name now. Low, guttural, almost affectionate. Play with me. I shook my head violently, trying to break the spell, but my limbs refused to obey. And then my reflection in the black screen. It wasn't me. My eyes were hollow, my mouth stretched impossibly wide into a grin that wasn't mine. The thing in the level was merging with me. Or maybe I was merging with it. I can't explain it. A sudden sharp pain stabbed my skull and the screaming intensified, echoing inside my head like it was trying to shred me apart. Then silence. I woke on the floor hours later, face pressed into the carpet, sweating and trembling. The ROM was gone from my desktop. Every trace of it vanished as if it had never existed. Even the forum thread disappeared, leaving only a 404 not found message. I thought it was over. I thought I'd survived, but it wasn't. At first it was subtle. Shadows in the corner of my eye that weren't there before. Screens flickering when no programs were running. Faint, almost imperceptible whispering at night. And then the scratches started appearing on my walls. Tiny pixel-shaped scratches, forming patterns I couldn't identify. I tried to photograph them, but the images always came out black. One night I woke to a sound that froze my blood. A ring jingling. My Sega Genesis was sitting on my desk, even though I was sure I had stored it away months ago. The ROM slot was open, empty, but I could see the faint glow of the level loading inside the machine. My hands wouldn't obey. My mind screamed at me to leave, to destroy it, but I was rooted to the spot. The TV flickered and the distorted Sonic sprite appeared, inching closer and closer to the edge of the screen. Then it spoke, not in a voice I could hear. In my mind, you tried to leave. You can't. You're part of Level X now. I blacked out. When I woke, the Genesis was gone. My walls were covered with scratches, some forming letters I couldn't read, others forming faces I didn't recognize. My reflection in the mirror. I still avoid mirrors now. Isn't mine anymore. Sometimes at night I can see him behind me, Sonic, grinning, watching, waiting. I've tried everything to get rid of it. Formatting my drives, throwing away my consoles, moving, changing apartments. Nothing works. The ROM, the level, it finds me. It always finds me. And I know one day it will pull me completely inside, and I'll become part of that corrupted, screaming world forever. Until then, I live with it. Shadows twitch when I move, screens flicker at random, and sometimes when the world is quiet I can hear it. The faint, warped melody of Green Hill Zone, distorted by screams calling my name. I have learned one terrifying truth. Some games aren't just played. They play with you. I've always been a collector. Old video games, consoles that predated my birth, cartridges with faded labels and mysterious scratches, they called to me. Most people find solace in collecting stamps or coins, but for me, it's the electronic relics of the past. There's a strange satisfaction in holding a game that someone played decades ago, feeling the grooves of its plastic casing, and imagining the hands that slid it into a cartridge slot. It was Saturday when I first came across it, an unassuming ROM, buried in a dusty corner of a tiny, nondescript retro shop in the middle of nowhere. The shop's windows were clouded with age, and the bell above the door rang with a shrill, hollow sound as I entered. No one was behind the counter. In fact, it looked as though no one had been there for years. Rows upon rows of cartridges sat on shelves like soldiers frozen in time. And then, tucked between a stack of generic, unlabeled Game Boy cartridges, I saw it. A Sonic game I'd never heard of. The label was simple. No logo. No publisher, just the word Sonic in jagged, red letters, smudged as if someone had written it with a pen that bled through the paper. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I knew, deep down, that this was no ordinary game. I had scoured online databases, forums, and collector sites, and this ROM had never been documented. The thought of it being a bootleg made my pulse quicken, but there was something else, something darker, something that whispered to me from the edge of reason. I didn't buy it immediately. I wandered the aisles for another half hour, circling the strange cartridge, feeling a mix of dread and fascination, before finally deciding to take it home. The old shop seemed almost alive in my peripheral vision, shadows shifting across shelves that I knew hadn't moved. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination. At home, I set up my old Sega Genesis emulator, the one I'd kept meticulously maintained for situations like this. I inserted the ROM, and the screen flickered briefly before displaying the title screen. It was simple, almost laughably so, with a pixelated Sonic grinning in a way that didn't quite feel right. His eyes seemed hollow, darker than usual, and his grin stretched a little too far. The music started, a distorted, warped version of the Green Hill Zone theme. But there was a strange undertone, like a high-pitched whisper running beneath the melody. I leaned closer, squinting, trying to make out what it was. For a brief moment, it almost sounded like words. Then the screen went black. I shook it off as a glitch. I tried again. This time, the game loaded into what looked like a typical Sonic level: green hills and blue skies, rings scattered across the terrain. But there was something off. The colors were muted, washed out as if the vibrancy had been drained from the world. The usual cheerful chirps and loops of the game were replaced with low, unsettling groans that seemed to echo around my small apartment. I pressed start and Sonic moved. Or rather, he slithered along the ground like a snake, limbs jerking unnaturally. Every time he turned, his shadow didn't follow him. It stayed still, and I could swear it wasn't his. I tried to close the game, but the window wouldn't respond. Hours passed. I don't know how long I sat there, eyes glued to the screen, watching Sonic crawl through a landscape that seemed to twist and stretch beyond the boundaries of the game. Trees bent impossibly, clouds hung heavy and dark, and the occasional ring would appear, black as coal, pulsating like a heartbeat. I felt my own heartbeat echoing in my ears, growing faster, and I realized I was holding my breath. Then the whispers returned, louder, more insistent. They weren't words I could understand. They sounded like Sonic's own voice, garbled, distorted, crying out in some language I couldn't comprehend. I wanted to turn it off. I did, repeatedly pounding the keys, unplugging my console, even shutting down my computer, but nothing worked. The game seemed alive, and then the door behind me creaked. I spun around. Nothing. Just the dim glow of my computer and the shadows stretching across the walls. I told myself I was imagining it, that stress and caffeine had finally broken me. But deep down I knew I wasn't imagining it. There was something here with me, watching, waiting. Days passed, or maybe just hours. Time felt distorted. I couldn't sleep properly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sonic's face, the hollow eyes, the stretching grin, peering at me from dark corners. I tried research, scouring forums, contacting retro game collectors. No one had ever seen this ROM. The very existence of the file seemed to slip from reality when I tried to show it to anyone. Screenshots would appear corrupted, emails would bounce, videos would vanish from my hard drive. The ROM was unshareable, and yet it was there, pulsing on my computer like a living thing. Then, one night, I heard it clearly. Not the garbled whispers, but a voice, sharp, deliberate. "Play with me." My blood ran cold. It came from my speakers, not the game. I spun around. Nothing. I muted the sound. The voice repeated, this time closer, almost beside me. "Play with me." And then, my reflection in the black screen, I froze. Sonic's face stared back at me, perfectly mimicking my own expression. Only it wasn't mine. His eyes had depth now, black voids that seemed to suck in the room around me. The grin widened impossibly. I tried to throw the ROM away, destroy it, anything. But the moment I touched it, pain shot through my hands as if it burned with a feverish cold. I screamed. The ROM slipped from my grasp, floating in the air for a heartbeat before clattering to the floor. And then my room went dark. The air grew thick, heavy, and I could hear it moving, circling, breathing. I didn't move, paralyzed with fear until a small, pixelated blue hand touched my shoulder. I don't know how long it stayed there, but when I finally dared to look, nothing was there. The next morning, the ROM was gone. My apartment was empty. No sign of struggle. No broken hardware, no trace that it had ever existed. I searched everywhere. I asked friends, collectors, even strangers online. No one knew what I was talking about, and yet I could feel it, lurking. In the corner of my vision, in the quiet hum of my computer, in the whisper of the wind through my window. Sometimes late at night when the world is silent, I can hear it. The faint melody of Green Hill Zone, distorted, warped, calling my name. And I know deep down that it isn't just a game. It's waiting. I don't know what it wants. I don't know if it's alive. But I know one thing. It exists. Somewhere. And it's only a matter of time before it finds its way back to me. I haven't touched a console since, haven't opened a single cartridge. But I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop hearing it. Sonic smiling, watching, waiting. And I fear that if I do turn it on again, I won't be able to stop. Because some things in this world are not meant to be played. And some things, once found, never truly let you go.